Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, were never going to be your traditional stock standard royals. He's a forward-thinking and modern millennial with a famed independent spirit. She's a person who speaks her mind and has forged her own path. From the moment their engagement was announced, the world knew that Harry and Meghan were going to shake up the stuffy old royal establishment. But have they helped bring about its downfall? Bronte Coy is news.com.au's entertainment reporter and an expert on all things royal. Bronte, it's probably fair to say that no one expected Harry and Meghan to have quite this level of impact.
Absolutely. From the outset, we knew this was no normal royal pairing and they were going to make an impact. Fast forward about 5 years, though, and that impact has been much more dramatic than I think anyone could ever have guessed. They were a total power glamour couple right from the start. Harry's royal status combined with her Hollywood star power made them a uniquely mighty force, and they seemed destined to do big things for the royals PR-wise. There was plenty of talk of Meghan modernising the monarchy, even just simply by the fact that she was biracial and a divorcee. So that turned out a little bit differently than we expected, though. It was a big impact, probably not the type that the royals were hoping for.
One thing I hear people wonder a lot about Meghan is, what did she expect? Surely she knew what she was getting herself into.
Yeah, it's a little hard to buy her insistence that she knew nothing about the royals. She always says that, but her friends have actually disputed it. And even without actually doing research on the royal family, it's really difficult to avoid knowing at least a little bit about what they're about the global interest in them. It's so deeply ingrained in our culture, you can't help but hear about it. And I think Meghan and Harry had hoped that the wave of overwhelmingly positive press they enjoyed when they first got together would continue. And when it started to turn, when stories of fights and issues with their staff, etc., got out, and that coverage flipped very quickly, it would be a lot to take. It would be almost unmanageable, really. And by their own admission, her and Harry had spoken very frankly about how her life would change, but obviously it wasn't enough.
In their explosive interview with Oprah, Harry and Meghan said things were tough from the very start, but it didn't seem that way.
No, and it's really important to remember that Meghan was actually given a very warm welcome by the British press and public, at least at the start. People loved this story. She was so glamorous and accomplished, and it was clear Harry was smitten. And after watching him as a devastated 11-year-old trailing behind his mum's coffin back in 1997, people just loved seeing him so clearly happy. The UK tabloid news coverage as their relationship unfolded stayed really positive. It seemed like Meghan could do absolutely no wrong. And don't forget all that awesome foursome chatter around Will, Kate, Harry and Meghan. It was a narrative we could not get enough of.
It's been confirmed the entire Fab Four, Will, Kate, Harry and Meghan, will all be in attendance with the Queen for the holiday.
In fact, the day the Sussexes suddenly announced they were moving away from their neighbours, Will and Kate, and heading into the countryside, that's when the very first cracks started to appear, at least publicly. Clearly, in private, there were major tensions between the four of them that we just couldn't see yet.
So what happened? How did we end up here with such a prominent royal exiling himself and his family in LA?
Well, you mentioned that Oprah interview, and actually there was a really interesting moment in there where Harry revealed just how miserable he'd been for the better part of his life.
I went to all the places which I thought I should go to ask for help. We both did, separately and together.
We'd never known that. He always just seemed like this cheeky, cool, relatable royal. He told Oprah that he'd been in a cycle of grief and that he needed to break it, that it had been passed on for generations of royals. That's massive. So the optics of Meghan showing up and suddenly the royal family's fractured and Harry's up and quit, well, it seems like she was just the catalyst and the supporter that he needed, that a part of him had wanted this all along. It's obvious that the way his mother was treated by the press right up until her death had a huge hand in his decision here too. He was convinced Meghan was getting the same treatment and he felt desperate to avoid it, to protect her like he couldn't with his mum.
For us mere commoners, it's fascinating to watch, like a super rich and glam soap opera. But this all has really big implications for the royal institution, right?
Yeah, the royal family's always been this watertight unit. That's what keeps the majesty about them. They're a family we're weirdly obsessed with, but we can't help it. But the inner workings of their dynamics just are so out of reach. We are so excited every time we hear something about them, like what the Queen eats for dinner or what Charles nicknamed Harry. But the fact is we don't know much, and the only other time in modern history that the royal family's been exposed like it has been in the last 2 years was with Diana's famous interview with the BBC's Martin Bashir, and also her work with biographer Andrew Morton, which resulted in an absolutely explosive tell-all.
Well, there were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
Meghan and Harry have now spoken out a number of times, obviously most famously and damagingly with Oprah, besides them actually literally quitting royal life, which sends a pretty strong message. They've done a huge amount of damage to the shiny, sleek, well-oiled PR machine that has been the royal family for generations.
The firm is a description that Harry and Meghan borrowed, and it describes the institution surrounding the Queen and the royal family. What do you think the firm hopes happens now when it comes to the Sussexes?
Well, they desperately want the Sussexes to be quiet. Every time they speak out, it opens up the wounds and it dents the shiny crown of the monarchy even more. It's not a good look, and it only gets worse with each accusation.
And what do you think will happen? Harry and Meghan aren't going away, are they?
Oh no, they're absolutely determined to be a force, at least in America. They've hired the top publicists and strategy teams, and they really hit the ground running with inking book deals, a huge Netflix deal, and popping up seemingly all over the place. Meghan in US politics is a very interesting rumor that he's not going away.
I feel like this is a real shame, a real missed opportunity. How do you think things could have gone differently if Harry and Meghan had remained senior royals? What do you think they could have achieved?
Oh, it's completely a missed opportunity. There's no denying that together as a team within the royal family, Meghan and Harry were an absolute powerhouse force. They brought glamour, modern values, compassion, a much deeper understanding of cultural issues than a lot of Harry's relatives. They had a real relatability about them. They were just so much more connected to the people. Truly, they were incredible resources that could have done immeasurable good for the institution, and it's an absolute shame that it's gone to waste. The truth is, I'm not sure how long their star shines outside of the royal family. They've gone from royalty to high-profile celebs in Hollywood, and that's a very different thing because we have a lot of those already.
Bronte, what do you reckon? Is there a way back? Is reconciliation a possibility at this point?
Oh, sadly, I don't see the awesome foursome smiling for Pat Picks again anytime soon. That wedge between William and Harry is just so deep now. After so many public words and story leaks, it would take a lot to bring them back together, especially now that they're living on other sides of the world. Apparently, Charles is really keen on making things harmonious with his son again, of course, but I think they'll all reconcile to some degree when the sting wears off from the past tumultuous couple of years, assuming Harry doesn't drop any more bombshells anytime soon. But it's hard to see it ever being the same or anything close to it. But here's hoping.